And Amazon already taking pre-orders for the Robert Mueller special counsel witch hunt report. Taking orders, it's selling, by the way, for less than $10. It comes with a foreword by Professor Alan Dershowitz, by the way. The listed release date is March 26th. I'd like to know how they know that. They're pretty well informed, apparently. Joining us tonight, a man who's always well informed, Congressman Jim Jordan, great American, ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, member of the Judiciary Committee, a co-founder of the House Freedom Caucus. Congressman, I've got to turn to, first of all, have you put it in your order for the Mueller report?
No, Lou, good to be with you. I didn't know that they knew already, for goodness sake. We think it's coming anytime soon, and just by the fact that it's been almost 2 years, it's got to come sometime soon. But I didn't know they could be this specific, so no, I don't have my order in yet.
By the way, I was thinking it would be coming pretty soon last fall, so you know, I'm over my projecting when it's going to arrive. I want to turn first to the Department of Homeland Security Secretary, talking about the crisis at our southern border is unsustainable. Yet I don't know what the military is doing down there. I don't know what happened to the concertina wire. I don't know what's happened to the Border Patrol. I saw pictures today of Border Patrol, and I know there's got to be more than these Border Patrol agents that I witnessed standing around as illegal immigrants are crouched on the ground, sitting on the ground in many cases. It is not a very good picture, and I can't understand why she's not being held accountable for the department that she is running.
And I can't understand why the United States Senate's going to vote for the emergency, vote against the president's emergency declaration. I would argue that the Republicans in particular who are going to vote against it are the same Republicans who didn't want to do it last Congress when we had a majority in the when we controlled the House and the Senate. And this is most certainly an emergency. I think the New York Times reported yesterday 70-some thousand last month alone illegal crossings last month alone. So the two things that have to happen, and we've talked about this, and you've been great talking about this, two things that have to happen. Build the border security wall, reform our asylum laws. You have to stop the incentive, or we're going to have an endless caravan, because the incentive is always going to be there to get to this country, get inside this country, and then the catch and release policy because of our asylum laws. That's what is incentivizing so much of this, and that has got those two things. If we do those two things, that would be the most important effort we could have right now. Then we can get to all the other issues about immigration.
But then, of course, as you well know, there would still be the Obama and Clinton appointed judges, particularly in the Ninth Circuit, particularly up in Northern California, who would be working against every policy, every initiative of this president to block him from securing the border, stopping illegal immigration, stopping asylum seekers. What happened to the return to Mexico policy to stop asylum seekers? This Homeland Security Department is enforcing nothing of what this president says. And why not challenge those courts and challenge the activist judges? And by the way, what about Chief Justice Roberts, who said there are no Obama-appointed judges or Bush-appointed justices or Trump? They're just good old judges. I mean, what kind of nonsense and pablum are we being fed by the man responsible for the FISA courts and the United States Supreme Court?
Yeah, you had a lot in there, Lou, and it was all good. But I'll tell you what, in spite of
I'll do it by segments in the future.
In spite of all these entities and efforts against the president, think about what has been accomplished in 2 years. And this list, it could be a lot longer, but taxes down, regulations down, economy growing at an unbelievable rate, lowest unemployment in 50 years, Gorsuch and Kavanaugh on the court, out of the Iran deal, embassy in Jerusalem, hostages home from North Korea, new NAFTA agreement. I mean, the market growing like it's been an amazing 2 years. In spite of the fact,
2 years.
In spite of the fact, so what we have to do is we just have to continue to do what we said, keep fighting hard, keep pushing, in spite of all the opposition that's against us. And if we have that attitude, this is America. We'll get it right eventually. We'll get those good policy outcomes that we ultimately need, in spite of the left, in spite of the mainstream press, in spite of some Republicans that don't want to support the president. We will get there, and that's the attitude the president has. That's the attitude of folks in the Freedom Caucus have, the Republicans in the House have. So we just got to keep that attitude and keep fighting away.
Well, to quote a great legislator and great American, you put a lot in there. It was all good, and frankly, Congressman, I needed that. I am sitting here still boiling over what I saw this president contend with and advocate today in the White House, reversing his immensely successful, as I said, historic policies on the working man and woman in this country, the forgotten man, and to buy the bull that's been fed him by the likes of Tom Donahue and the other phonies that were sitting in the room with him.
Now look what the president's up against. 81 different letters Jerry Nadler sent out 2 days ago to 60-some individuals. This is they're coming after the White House in every way they can. But of those 81 letters, 60-some individuals, it's interesting to me, the two individuals that they didn't send a letter to, the two most important in my judgment, Glenn Simpson, the guy who was paid by the Clinton campaign to put together the dossier, and Christopher Steele, the guy Glenn Simpson hired, a foreigner, to write the dossier that started this whole crazy ordeal. Those two didn't get a letter from Jerry Nadler, which shows what these guys are up to. The Mueller report is not going to say what they wanted. It's not going to. They put all their eggs in that basket. I don't think it's going to say what they wanted, which, you know, it's going to say there was no collusion, I think. And so they got to figure out something else. So they go on this fishing expedition, but they don't go after the two people to get information from the two most important people that started this whole thing.
Congressman, I particularly enjoyed when you and I talk past each other. I'm talking illegal immigration and trade and the working man and woman and the middle class families. And you're talking truth, justice, and the American way. And I like that as well.
I'm talking about you are the forces against this president, the forces against the American people. That's what we got to keep fighting against and make sure we get the right things done.
Amen, brother. Thank you, Congressman.
You bet, Lou. Take care.
Take care.
We face a crisis, a real, serious, and sustained crisis at our borders. We have tens of thousands of illegal aliens arriving at our doorstep every month. We have drugs, criminals, and violence spilling into our country every week. Illegal immigration is simply spiraling out of control.
We should do something about the legal immigration. What? But to hear Democrats like California Congresswoman Nanette Branigan tell it, the real national emergency is the treatment of migrant families. Nanette.
In the meantime, you didn't do anything at all, and you let kids be separated without tracking them. Do you know how outrageous that is, Madam Secretary? You have no feeling, no compassion, no empathy here.
She's like a human chihuahua. People would like her more if she didn't hold back so much. Oh, no, Nanette. Following the hearing, South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham said the debate is over and the president has won because he will veto anything that prevents him from declaring a national emergency. But is this truly an emergency? Let's get a hold of ourselves. Joining me tonight, of course, these two. Let's have at it. American Majority CEO and former presidential speechwriter Ned Ryan is here, along with radio host and Fox News contributor Richard Fowler. Welcome back, gentlemen.
Good to see you, Kennedy.
Good to be back.
Ding, ding, ding. Ned, I will start with you. Is this really a crisis?
Well, I got to tell you, not only did Secretary Nielsen say it was a crisis, but you have the Washington Post and the New York Times and NPR all finally starting to admit that we might have a crisis if you're going to have up to 1 million illegal immigrants trying to get across the border this year alone. And, you know, the amazing part to me, Kennedy, is how just what a joke this has become on the southern border, especially with asylum claims. You have illegals showing up with children, claiming they're coming to find jobs. Well, that's a deportable claim. Then you have pro-immigration lawyers coming alongside them and saying, no, you should claim government persecution, check the credible fear box. And those are being accepted at over a 90% rate. They're being held for 10 days and then released, catch and released into the country. This is a complete and utter joke. And the last thing I'll say on this is, Kennedy, people keep on saying, well, for humanity's sake, we should continue to accept these people. I'm sitting here going, what about the humanity's sake of the American taxpayer who's having to foot the bill on all of this? At what point do we get to finally say, Republicans and Democrats, you better fix this out because we're getting sick and tired of being your ATM for your stupidity?
A great point, because Republicans and Democrats are not acting properly and in a timely manner on immigration or entitlement reform. And I don't think that entitlement should be used as a magnet to lure people into the country. But Richard Fowler, I don't think people are coming to the country because they want free stuff. I think it's more of a compliment than a crisis, because people are coming here to work. But you say they're mostly asylum seekers. I disagree with that.
Well, here's what's not a joke, Kennedy. What's not a joke is when a mother packs up everything she owns and puts it in a backpack and takes her 2 children and walks on foot from Honduras, Nicaragua, or Guatemala to our southern border because she's seeking asylum from violence, from drug cartels, which were created because of America's failed war on drugs. And the violence has gotten so much that she's afraid for the lives of her children and the lives of herself. And that's what's happening on our southern border.
Okay, I understand
and
that, but
Trump,
here's my question there. And you make a completely valid point about the failed war on drugs and the murder and lawlessness that follow from that. But why not stop in Mexico?
Because we are a country where right not too far from where you're reporting tonight is the Statue of Liberty that says, bring us your poor, you're tired, you're hungry, yearning for freedom. Well, that's what it says in the Statue of Liberty, and that's what we are, a nation of immigrants. We have been and we will continue to be. We also are a nation of laws, and one of those laws are a law that said if you are an asylum seeker, you have the right to come to this country and seek asylum. What Donald Trump is trying to make this out to be is that
okay, but how do you differentiate people who just want a little bit of an economic boost versus those who are seeking asylum? Because I don't think they're all asylum seekers, which is fine. I'm all for letting people in to work. I think it's great.
Kennedy,
I think it's good for the economy, and I think it's a realization of the American dream. Go ahead, Ned.
But Kennedy, Secretary Nielsen has actually testified that when these asylum seekers cases go before the courts, 90% of them are actually rejected and they are deported.
A government failure? A bureaucratic failure? Ned, now I've heard everything. Do you know why so many people are coming over here? No, I'm gonna talk for a little bit because this is truth, and I got to speak to both of you because you're both wrong. Ned, the reason so many people are coming over here is because the door is closing, and people are worried that they're going to get shut out on the other side. So people want to be here. There are other countries that aren't as great as the United States of America. That doesn't make everyone who wants to leave somewhere that's not as good an asylum seeker. But the other thing is Congress has to do a better job of fixing laws and allowing people to come in so there's not this border panic when they think they're going to be shut out. Either one of you can take it.
I just don't, Kennedy, I just don't understand why all of a sudden the American taxpayer is supposed to be the escape valve for
then we don't have to pay for anything.
All the mismanaged countries south of the border.
Yeah.
No, and you're correct in saying these are linked. I mean, the fact that we have a broken immigration system, we have a broken welfare system, this is a very grim economic future for the American people.
Maybe we shouldn't trust government with anything.
This is a red herring. This is absolutely a red herring to think that these folks who are coming to this country are just coming to sort of live off America's welfare system. These are some of the hardest working people. When they come to the United States, they clean houses, they work in kitchens, they literally are the backbone of this economy, working in farms, working in restaurants, cleaning streets. These are what these people do when they come to this country. And to have the gall to think that they're coming here trying to live off our system and sap off the American government is not only disrespectful.
You know what? Hey, if it's a reason to shrink the entitlement state, I don't care what the pretense is. I'm all for it. Gentlemen, thank you both so much.
Great.